Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box Podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 395.
Yes!
Welcome to another episode of the Big Blue Box. We hope you are keeping well and safe, and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who
Related!
No!
oh, yes. Oh, I got in there. That was like Roadrunner.
The
rushing
sound
in there.
was just about to leave my lips, and then, bugger.
There was no way I was going to let you have that one.
Bugger. Nice one, dude, anyways. So welcome to 395. I hope you've all had a good one. And you managed to check out last week's episode, 394, where we spoke about the recent trailers that are dropped for the upcoming season 1 of Doctor Who. And also our review of Spearhead from Space, which was a sort of a revisit for us. It's a story that we've seen many, many times over the years separately, but not really talked about it much together. So that was nice to do that one, dude. And that's got me in the mood for more Pertwee, by the way. I'm up for
Me
more.
too, actually. Yeah. Feel the same.
Good times. Good times, eh? Coming up in today's episode, we have no news to speak of again. It's one of those things that
Nothing
typically happens, isn't it, with Doctor Who, where we have a bunch of stuff that happens over trailers or teasers and announcements or whatever, and then it goes quiet for a while. So I don't think it'll be quiet for too long as we ramp up to, especially when we get into May next month and we approach the new season. We'll probably get some little tidbits and whatnot, but for now, quite quiet. A bit.
It's really it's a bit strange, isn't it? After getting those two mammoth trailers, it's almost like Disney released theirs, and then the BBC were like, "Well, our trailer's better than your trailer. We're going to put ours out tomorrow." It's like so two massive beefy trailers. And then it's gone quiet again. But yeah, and we're rocking towards episode 400. We're rocking towards episode 400, dude. And I'm trying to work out, that could be one of Shooter's episodes, I think, is it? I'm trying to think how many weeks we got left now.
Will it be? I don't think so, dude.
So we're 5 episodes, 4 more episodes, yeah.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4... Yeah, could be.
So 400 could be Space Babies.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, well, this could work out really cool.
This could be good.
Yeah, our luck, it'll be 401 and not be on the magical milestone 400, but...
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we'll see what happens, but that's coming up, dude. Next month, isn't it? The old season 1 soft reboot.
Bring it on. I can't wait to review some new episodes. I don't know about you. I'm so excited to review some new stuff.
Yeah, same.
As much as I'm enjoying the classics. Yeah.
Oh, same, mate. Yeah. It's always great, isn't it, diving into classic Who? Always. I mean,
always.
We'll always do that. But some brand new Doctor Who on the horizon, ready to review is always a good thing. Indeedy. So, it's been quiet for us as well. Just before we recorded, Adam said in a lot of detail, quite eloquently, that he had done bugger all. Doctor Who for the week.
Related.
So, and I echo that as well. I've not had a chance to dive into anything specifically with Doctor Who. I have thought about picking up the new comics. There's a new comic run that's just started with Shooty's Doctor, so I'm contemplating that. But other than that, dude, not much going on.
I've got my eye on those comics, mate, because the covers look good. But man, they have gone. I know they always do, but they've gone overboard with the cover variants this time. There's literally like 10 different variants for this guy, and two of them look the same. I think they're just a different shade of color. Oh, but I mean, some of them do look good. There's a really nice Cyberman cover, isn't there, with Shooty and Millie on that? That's the one I'm going to get. But yeah, I'm going to pick that up for sure.
Looks cool. Yeah, probably get that. Yeah. Okie dokie. As we are not talking about any news or anything that we've done, we're going to smash straight into our review. It's another Fourth Doctor classic story. But before we do that, I just want to give you all a gentle reminder. And if it's the first time you're listening, by the way, this is your first episode of listening to the Big Blue Box, then welcome aboard. It's great to have you here as a new listener. And also, if you're a long timer, if you're a grizzled ancients, one of the grizzled ancients as we call you, then thank you for coming back as well to listen to another episode. Either way, make sure you are following or subscribing in whatever podcast app you get your podcasts on, as we put a new episode out every Friday, plus the monthly roundtable. You can smash into that, so make sure you're doing that stuff. And you can listen for free on the website as well, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. And you can read all of our writing team's articles. They've got reviews and editorials and event roundups and everything, so go and check that out. And we're on the socials. Links are on the website, and we have a free Discord server. Hop in there and chat Doctor Who with other Who fans. And don't forget to remember to check out
terrible grammar.
Awful grammar, yeah. Go and check out my co-host channel on YouTube. It is The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yeah, and there will be new stuff coming. I've actually I've enlisted my neighbour to film something for me. Because there's a record coming out for Record Store Day in a couple of weeks, and I said, like, you know, if my mum gets one, can you film it? So there is new stuff coming. So go and check out The Geek's Handbag.
Indeedy. Yeah, go and check it. It's loads of really cool
on the old
stuff.
YouTube.
The old YouTube, not the new one.
Yeah, not the new one. No, not the TikTok. No,
we don't talk about that at the moment, do we?
No.
So yeah, go and check out Adam's channel on YouTube. I'm not saying this because Adam's one of my good friends and my co-host. He genuinely has a great YouTube channel with so many cool geekery videos on there, mainly Doctor Who, but there's some other little other sci-fi tidbits on there as well. So just grab a cup of tea, get comfy, and check out Adam's stuff. And he's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Right, formalities out the way. Dude, what are we reviewing this week?
Let's dive into a live painting or projector or whatever it is and review The Nightmare of Eden.
This is your flight computer speaking. We are about to go into orbit around the planet Azure.
Second, these coordinates are wrong. Did you set these? Oh no! Mayday. This is cruise liner Empress reporting collision on approach to Azure.
Two ships are sticking straight through each other, sir.
Come on, look yourself! And I can see!
I don't think we should interfere.
Interfere? Of course we should interfere. Always do your best, Dad. That's what I say. Now, come on.
First a collision, then a dead navigator, and now a monster roaming about my ship. It's totally inexplicable.
Nothing's inexplicable.
Then explain it.
It's inexplicable.
This ship is a disaster area.
Someone aboard this ship is smuggling drugs.
Fraxo!
Yes.
Name and date of birth.
Well, how would I know? I don't even know who he is yet.
I would advise you not to play the fool with us.
We wouldn't want to.
Would you please listen? Fraxone is the biggest killer drug in existence, and it's on this ship. All in good time. There's no good time.
Present Doctor is in serious trouble.
Romana, we've got no choice.
What do you want to do?
What we have to do, we've got to get inside that machine. Come on.
That's enough. Doctor, the man is a criminal.
Idiots, they're worse than idiots. They're bureaucrats that just exist to tangle people up.
It's a pity. Such a brilliant mind.
I'm the doctor. I keep telling you that.
Yes, but who do you work for?
I can work for anybody. I'm just having fun.
He's the Doctor, don't you know?
He's just having fun.
Keeps telling everyone, and they don't listen. Aye.
Were we having fun watching this, though? That is the question.
That is the question. We will find out now as we review Nightmare of Eden, which was first broadcast back on the 24th of November 1979. It's a four-parter. It finished up on the 15th of December. It was written by Bob Baker, directed by, it was directed by Graham Williams to a degree until he got the hump and stormed away, and then it was taken over by Alan Bromley, who directed after that.
I think it was the other way around, mate. I think it was Alan Bromley. Had a massive row with Tom Baker and stormed off.
Have I got it the wrong way around?
I believe so, yeah. I believe it was Alan and Tom that were having almost at fisticuffs on the studio floor.
Yes.
And he stormed off.
Oh, of course, you're right, yeah, because it was produced by Graham Williams and then he took over directing duties.
Yeah.
That's right, my mistake, sorry. Yeah, so Alan had a bitch fit and stormed off. Because everyone disagreed with some of his decisions.
Him and Tom had a massive row. I would love to see some studio footage of this, if there is any.
To
see what was going down that day. Yeah,
just to get the tea on what happened. Yeah, and this was. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, it says on Wikipedia, it says Alan Bromley is credited with directing this story, but he quit halfway through filming as a result of a vehement. Is that even a word? Does that mean venomous? Vehement dispute. Vehement, sorry.
Yeah, with Tom Baker.
With Tom Baker. God, what was going on?
Spicy. That would have been spicy.
Yeah. Juicy.
So Alan stormed off. Graham Williams took over. It was overseen by Douglas Adams, who was script editor at the time. It stars Tom Baker, of course, as the Fourth Doctor, Lala Ward as Romana, and David Brearley as the voice of K9 in this one, and a supporting cast of about a dozen people, if you include the old dudes in the costume, the Mandrels as well. The synopsis is as follows. The TARDIS arrives on the space liner Empress, which has become locked with a private ship, is it the Hesate or the Hecate? The Hecate, I can't remember. After colliding with it,
or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, after colliding with it on emerging from hyperspace, the Fourth Doctor and Romana meets the scientist Trist, who has with him a continuous event transmuter. We call it the CET for short. And
that's right.
It contains crystals on which are stored supposed recordings of planets and creatures that he and his team have visited. Someone on board the liner is smuggling the dangerously addictive drug Vraxoin. To complicate matters, the interface between the two ships allows some monstrous mandrels from the mud swamps of Eden to escape from the CET machine, continuous event transmuter to anyone who doesn't know what it is, which does not merely take recordings but actually displaces whole planetary areas into its crystals. The smugglers are revealed to be Trist and Diamond. The Hecate's pilot Vraxoin is in fact the material into which the mandrels decompose when they are killed. The Doctor thwarts this plan, separates the two ships, and returns the mandrels to Eden. Nice and easy to understand.
Yeah.
So, dude, as always, over to you first to kick us off. What are your thoughts on this often revered absolute classic and shining light of Tom's era, Nightmare of Eden?
Nightmare of Eden. I surprisingly enjoyed this more than I thought I was going to, mate. This is not a story I watch very often. It's not highly regarded. I'm not saying it was good, but I found myself laughing and smiling a lot. Maybe sometimes for the wrong reasons. I mean, Trista's accent and stuff was cracking me up. I was like, what accent is he doing? But actually, to be serious, mate, I wasn't particularly looking forward to watching this one. It's not a story I watch very often. Not one I could remember much about, apart from the mandrels. They kind of come to mind when you think of it, which is surprising, actually, having rewatched it now. They're not in it anywhere near as much as I thought they were. But it's... As a script, it's actually got some really nice dialogue. I think there's some nice moments in it. I like the concept, I love the idea of this projector that you can go into and things hiding in it. I like the idea of the mandrels being, the drug once they, that's what they melt into. I think there's loads of nice ideas in this script. So I kind of enjoyed it. I'm a little bit conflicted because I can see why it's not highly regarded. Oh boy, can I see that. And it's not one that I'm going to go and watch too often again. But It was better than I was expecting in many ways. It just had a sort of really odd tone to it. You know, it's kind of got this drug storyline, which is quite serious, but then everyone in it is kind of, I wouldn't say playing it for laughs, but there's like almost a comedic tone to it. Some of the script has got some very Douglas Adam-esque touches to it. So it's an odd tone coupled with whatever happened with the director, because it does feel a little bit strangely directed in places. But yeah, nowhere near as bad as I thought, mate. I don't really know how to sum up. All I can say is I enjoyed watching it a lot more than I thought I would. But do I think it's a great story, a classic? No.
Yeah, it's not a classic, is it, this one? Nope. So my thoughts are quite similar to yours. I mean, I don't think as much, though, as in, I remember this being very boring, and to me it still is very boring. The only thing that wasn't quite as bad that I thought it was Tom's performance. For some reason, I remember, or I thought I remembered, his performance was just really lackluster and quite tame and not that interesting to watch. But on this rewatch, and bear in mind I haven't seen this for about, I don't know, 5 years, maybe 6 years. I think it was probably the last time I watched it. And I, for some reason, I thought Tom's performance was dire, but it wasn't actually that bad on the rewatch. I thought Tom was not too bad. Not his best, but not too bad. The rest of the story, though, dude, I was asleep, mate. Like probably towards the end of episode 2, I was like, oh man, because it sort of has these little ups and downs. It's one of those episodes where, you know, like some classic stories are a little bit, what's the word? Plain, vanilla, you know, through the entire middle part. You know, it has that typical valley shape to it where it starts fairly strong and then it dips and runs like that for a while. And then sometimes it picks up at the end for the finale and that's it. This one, for me, it has like these little peaks and troughs almost. So it's got the cool bits with the mandrels when they turn up. They're pretty cool. And then it dies back down again. And there's just a lot of walking around, you know, between corridors.
There is.
Yeah, to different rooms and that sort of thing. And the conversations seem to go on forever. Like the bit with the German scientist dude, you know, when he's explaining the CET and some other bits.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just some of the scenes with him, even like, you know, not really sort of critical scenes of the story because he's in cahoots with Diamond, isn't he, from the other ship? And even some of the scenes with those two when they're sort of talking about what's going to happen because they might get found out or whatever, they seem to go on a little bit, and you know he's dragging on, and so yeah, dude.
Yeah, he's going on and on.
Yeah. So for me, the story, dude, there's a couple of all right performances as well. I thought David Dacre, who played Captain Rigg, I thought he was quite good.
Yeah,
he showed a bit of range. He was like the serious captain at the beginning, but then gets his drink spiked and ends up being a bit wacko for a bit, and that was cool. And I quite liked who was the other sort of the female who lost
Della.
Della, yeah. So one of the other guys, a guy called Stott, he had sort of mysteriously vanished previously. She didn't realise it had gone into the CET thing, you know, in Eden, and he was knocking around in there. And so Della, she's kind of understated. You know, I think Jennifer Lonsdale is her performance a bit understated, but I quite liked that sort of involvement from her in that stuff. So a couple of good performances, dude. I thought Tom was better than I remember. Lala Ward is a little bit quiet, I think, for the most part. She's definitely not her best. And I'm really not a fan of David Brearley as K9 just because, I don't know, it feels like it's... We're so
used to John Leeson, aren't we?
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. And also it feels like it's David Brearley trying to do an impression of John Leeson rather than trying to do something original with K9. So, yeah, for me, dude, it's not a great one, I'm afraid. It's just not... And sometimes these stories do surprise us, you know. Sometimes we'll put out on the socials, you know, this week we're reviewing this story, which is typically panned and typically viewed as a very poor story. You and I rewatch it and it'll be like, whoa, that's actually very cool. the years have been kind to it sort of thing. Whereas this one, I just can't get my head into it, mate. I'm just asleep and I'm trying so hard to stay with it. And so, yeah.
I think I absolutely agree with you, mate. And let me be clear, this is not one of those stories that I went into thinking it was really bad and come away thinking, oh, that was brilliant or much better than I thought. I think it just wasn't as bad as I was expecting, because in my mind, before I watched this, I was clumping it in with like Underworld and stories like that really are. I just sit there and I'm like, oh God, are we only on episode 2? I really struggle with certain stories. And I was expecting this to be one of them. And although, as I said, I absolutely agree with all the points you've just made there, I wasn't bored, I wouldn't say. It just had a lot more going for it than I thought. And it's really interesting that you mentioned about Tom Baker and you thinking that he wasn't very good in this story, because that's exactly how I remember him. I remember thinking, oh yeah, this is one of those stories where Tom's not into it, and yet he starts off a little bit like that. I think for the first 5 minutes, I was thinking, yeah, I remember now, Tom's just not with it. He even fluffs a couple of lines, which is very un-Bakerish. I thought, yeah, this is not one of Tom's best. And yet suddenly, after the first 5 minutes, he seems to come alive and he seems to be quite into it. So I agree with you. Tom was much better in this than I remember him being. And he kind of held it together for me, because he's taking the story quite seriously, I feel. He gets quite sort of cross at times, but he's also delivering the humour. He's working quite well with Lala still at this point, or at least it seems like it on screen. He's actually looking her in the eye, which is always a good sign. So, yeah, while not a Reborn classic in any way, it just was a lot, or not a lot. It was just better than I was expecting. I was really thinking I was going to struggle through this, mate, and it was a pleasant watch for me. I wouldn't say it was brilliant, but it was a pleasant watch. I kind of finished it and thought, yeah, that was all right, actually. Had some good stuff.
Yeah, there is some good stuff in it, dude, for sure. Yeah. We're not sort of... anyone that's listened to us for a while now will know that we're not into just completely destroying stuff for the sake of it. There's always some cool stuff in even on the surface, at least, appears to be quite a weak story. There's always some cool stuff, and Tom is a highlight for sure, which is so weird because I don't know why I thought he was so bad in it on previous watches. I thought
the same. That's the thing. Yeah, I remember here thinking this is not a good Tom one. I don't remember any good standout moments from him in it. That's the thing. But yeah, he's not bad.
He's not bad.
Pretty good in this one.
Yeah, and the line fluff comes early, so he got it out the way pretty much.
Maybe that was when the Alan Bromley was still in charge, before sleeves were being rolled up and stuff, maybe it's before all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perhaps, yeah. The surprise one for me, dude, was Lala Ward in this one. She was really quiet, because the last story that we did with her, her and Tom, which was Meglos. Was it Meglos or Destiny of the Daleks? Whichever story.
Destiny, yeah.
With those two. She was really, really good in that. I really liked her performance in Destiny, and she just didn't seem to have the same kind of spark in this one. Perhaps she was affected perhaps a little bit by what was going on behind the scenes. Who knows? Maybe Tom was getting on her nerves a little bit, with those two. You never know. There is a line that she delivers to Della, which she must have loved delivering. So the Doctor essentially just dismisses Della and the scientist, and just walks off. And Della's a little bit put out. She's like, "Oh," and Romana's like, "Oh, don't worry about him. He just likes to irritate people." And you just thought, well, for me anyway, when I saw that scene, I was like, "Yep, she's probably talking about Tom there, not the Doctor."
Yeah,
so
not the Doctor.
Yeah, so she probably loved delivering that line. And then she has a little smile on her face here and there as she's talking with Della in some scenes, but the rest of it, mate, yeah, she was really quiet throughout this one.
I guess she doesn't get that much to do, really, does she? I mean, I suppose in episode 3 she gets a good scene where she's gonna push the button on the ship, you know, the where the countdown's going, and that guy's got a gun at her head, and he's like, "Don't you push that button!" So she gets a good scene there. But you're right. Apart from that, she doesn't really get a lot to do apart from sort of wander around talking to Trist, and she gets a couple of nice scenes with Della, but that's pretty much it. So she doesn't get a lot to work with, I guess. But yeah, it didn't feel like she was into the story, mate. I totally hear what you're saying. It didn't feel like it was one that she was, you know, got the script and thought, "God, I'm grabbing this by the horns," you know.
Yeah, samesies.
Bit flat.
Yeah, the story starts off pretty sweet though, dude. You know, with the other ship that's coming out of hyperspace.
Well, it looks like a giant loaf of bread.
Yeah, it's like dematerializing it. I think it's come out of hyperspace. I'm pretty sure that's how they worded it. And it's kind of locked in. It's kind of dematerialized and in the midst of another ship in its kind of space. So they're linked in, and then we have this whole thing with some really cool old school video effects. You know, there's the bits where the two ships intersect and the Doctor runs after one of the dudes. You know, there's a guy that he's chasing throughout the ship for what felt like 20 minutes, and he runs in after him. There's like, on one hand, it's like old school theatre effects, because the way that they make that intersection seem like mysterious and dangerous. They've just got basically smoke and lights. So it's like a theatre production almost. And they run in, but then once they're inside that, they've got this effect that kind of cuts out every couple of frames, I think. And it's had this sort of choppy... anyone's from a certain age that's ever been to a nightclub years ago, and they had the strobe effects with the smoke and stuff, and as you're moving, you know... That's the best way I can describe it, but it had that kind of effect. And that was actually kind of cool. So, but that idea of the two ships being sort of linked unintentionally, and the two captains feuding over, you know, I need to get on my way because I got this schedule, or I need to do this and I can't be delayed. And comically, in another way, it almost felt like a Go Compare advert or an insurance claim advert, because you got the two of them. They're like, "Well, don't worry about it. You'll be compensated by the insurance." Well, can I have a letter from you stating that this accident was your fault? And blah blah blah. So, and then so that part of it, that's like I said at the start, it kind of starts off really cool, and you think, right, there's going to be a massive tear up now between the two captains of these ships. They've clearly not fans of each other, and they're not happy that the other one has bumped into their ship, whatever. And then the story kind of evolves, doesn't it, into this, it very becomes not about the collision at all. It becomes more about this drug that's being peddled by the scientist and the other guy, the other Captain Diamond. And it's affecting some of the crew members, and the Doctor's quite fearful of it. He's seen the effects of that on other planets, how addictive the drug is and how it can send people doolally and all the rest of it. So, and then you've got these little subplots with a guy that went missing that Della's looking for, and the mandrels and stuff. So story-wise, dude, not massively complex in any way, but it's not too bad. There's a couple of cool little moments in there.
Yeah, there's a couple of cool little ideas, isn't there? Like the projector, and you know, it's the actual underlying story is quite serious. You know, this drug storyline, which is quite dark for Doctor Who at this time. But it's weird, isn't it? It's sort of handled in a, I wouldn't say comedic way, but in a light-hearted way, isn't it? Like when Lala's handed the drugged cup and she passes it to Rig and stuff like that. I mean, do we ever find out who actually did that? I'm assuming it was Trist or someone like that.
Perhaps, or Diamond, yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
One of the two, yeah. But yeah, it's a couple of nice little ideas in the story, I think. They just don't always come off as well as they could have, I guess. Yeah,
agreed. What did you think to the mandrels then? Because I remember the first time seeing a mandrel was actually at the Doctor Who experience, just the costume on display before I saw Nightmare of Eden. And I always thought, they look really cool. They look like really cool monsters. And I don't want to say they were that bad in the story. They were okay, and I don't know if this is down to Alan Bromley or Graham Williams, one of the two or both, I'm not sure. But they just weren't really directed in a way that made them come across as anything other than just bumbling things in the corridor. You know, the first time we see them, you know, when he comes through the wall where K9's cut a hole in the wall, and then they lift the panel out, and then one of the mandrels is there, and he comes through as the cliffhanger, I think, which is episode 2. I think that's the yep. He's just there flailing his arms around, and the sound effects of the scary monster that's going on. And then in further episodes, they're just kind of labouring around in the corridor. Don't really trouble anybody too much, and that sort of thing. So yeah, they were okay, dude. I quite like the look of them. Has Robert Harrop done one of these?
They did. It's really nice, actually, mate. It's one of the nicest figures they've done. It's beautiful. Because it really brings out the design of it. Yeah,
they do look cool, and especially with the bright glowing yellow greeny sort of eyes as well. It looks kind of cool. So what do you reckon to the mandrels, dude? Good monster. Would you like to see them back?
Not really. No. I mean, no, I don't know. They could definitely be improved upon. I mean, I agree with you, mate. I love the design, and it's really weird you mentioned the Harrop figure, because I was thinking that the whole time you were talking about the look of it, because as I said, the figure they did really showcases the design of the mandrels, which is actually really nice. But on screen, they're just lumbering, kind of almost... Yeah, just comedic, I guess. Like the bit where they're being sort of ushered around the spaceship, they keep shooting them, and then they turn around and go, roar, and then they shoot them again, and it's like, oh dear. They just don't really work on screen, sadly. Even the bit where that one mandrel is chasing the Fourth Doctor, and he's trying to make the machine, and it's kind of like staring around the corner at him for ages while he creeps off and stuff. Yeah, they just don't really work on screen, sadly, mate. But I agree, they're a nice design, and maybe they should come back. I guess they could do them a lot better now, so maybe they could come back. But yeah,
perhaps. Yeah, I think
not great.
Yeah, I mean, I typically not. I don't mind it too much, but when some writers bring back classic monsters, like they did with the Sea Devils. With Jodie's episode, you kind of think, should they be bringing back classic monsters in newer Doctor Who? Can it work? Is it not going to work? Mainly because, I mean, quite thankful actually they did this in that Sea Devils episode with Jodie's Doctor, that they didn't really mess with the design too much.
Yeah, because they got it just right, I felt.
Yeah, there was a couple of small little tweaks and updates, but nothing that's going to jump out that you think, oh my god, that's not the Sea Devils that I know and love. They still looked, for the most part. Do you know what? I've got the opposite opinion on the mandrel. As much as controversial as that sounds, I would actually like to see them come back and have another shot at being quite a scary monster, because I think if you tweak that a little bit, they could be quite scary and menacing. If you put like a bunch of razor sharp teeth, in the mouth area, and all that stuff, put bigger claws on and have them a bit taller, I think they could be really cool, scary looking monsters. So I'd like to see them have another crack at the Doctor, Not that they were there, specifically to attack the Doctor per se. They were just there out of circumstance. That whole area of Eden, the planet they come from, was captured by Trist and whacked into the CET. So it's not their fault they're there. You kind of get the feeling that they were defending themselves. And then it's obviously transpires later on that, as I read in the synopsis, that the drug that's being peddled comes from, sort of the mandrel when they die.
Yeah, which is a really nice idea, isn't it? I didn't see that coming. I didn't remember that plot point. So when it got to that scene, I thought, oh, that's a cool little concept. But let's get the petition going, mate. If you want them back, let's get that petition out there. Let's get the mandrels back.
Let's do it. Russell, I know you're listening.
Are you listening,
to
Russell?
Another week, so notepad out. Let's get it going. So yeah, the mandrels they're no serious complaints as such. It's just, they just weren't really because they're described, if you read any sort of official books or guides or wikis or anything about the mandrels, they're always described as these beings that are like, extremely tough, fierce predators, hard to kill, all that stuff. But then in the episode, they're just, the opposite almost. So I'd like to see them have another shot. Yeah.
They're kind of the stereotypical, if you asked a member of the general public, like what's a classic Doctor Who monster look like in terms of the old series. That's kind of what they picture, isn't it? Somebody in a suit with a big mask on, lumbering across the screen, going roar. It's just it just is of its time, I guess. But yeah, let's bring them back. I'm all for it now. You've convinced me.
Bring them back. Yeah,
bring them back.
What did you think to production on this, dude, and sets and all that stuff? I thought nothing really to shout about in terms of sets, really. Quite simple and plain, I guess. The only thing that sort of stood out really was Eden itself, the forest and that sort of fantasy forest area when they go into the CET.
Yeah. That
wasn't too bad. They look pretty cool. Interesting to note that when they look at some of the images of the planet's surfaces through the view screen, they're actually recycled from the Space 1999 episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they just pulled those still images from that other sci-fi show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's 3 episodes from Space 1999, Full Circle, Guardian of Piri, and Matter of Life or Death. They pulled 3 different stills from there and just whacked them on the old view screen, dude. So sci-fi pilfering from other sci-fi, as always.
Yeah, that's cool. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
I'll look out for that when I next watch this, which could be some time. But anyway.
Yeah. So visually, not too bad, but just fairly static, and it's more the sets for me more than anything. It just they were painted in this kind of eggshell sort of plain colour that you see sort of office corridors painted in, and a lot of taupe and that sort of thing. So the only thing that had a really good contrast to that was when you stepped into the CET through to that section of Eden and stuff. So that was all right, but otherwise fairly simplistic, mate, on that side of things.
Yeah. I must admit, one of the notes I made was that, first of all, the costumes the actors were made to wear were just hard to take them seriously. Like the shell suits with the sunglasses that all the passengers are wearing, the silver boiler suit, even Captain Rig. I mean, hats off to David Dacker, who played Captain Rig, for giving a fairly sort of serious performance over that costume. So the costumes weren't great. The sets, I have to agree, mate, were a bit... they weren't the worst I've seen in Doctor Who, but they weren't exactly very interesting. They were very flat. And the model work as well wasn't particularly great. But again, I think it's all very standard of that time, this period of Doctor Who. They don't sort of stand out as being particularly bad. But they don't stand up that well.
You also, talking of that stuff, sets and props and whatnot, did you notice at the end, when everything's wrapped up and the Doctor's on his way, the TARDIS prop, they put it on a new, so the TARDIS prop has this base to it, doesn't it? This kind of wider base at the bottom, as acts as like a little step. It wasn't painted at all. It was just normal sort of pine coloured, whatever wood they'd used to construct it, but they'd forgotten to paint it blue. So the bottom is just this nice looking oak coloured.
Oh, I thought it was black. I thought it was a black base. I noticed it was different.
Yeah, just unpainted. Yeah. Well, they might have tried to give it a lick of paint quickly, but it just didn't. I'm back in the day, that TARDIS prop probably needed a couple of coats of that blue paint. So the base was just a little bit, just wasn't painted very well at all. And then the top of it, where the light is, that was a bit wonky.
Tell me, because I was just distracted by the windows, which were actually broken.
What?
So so the two, like the two sort of slats that go down across the TARDIS windows, completely broken, almost hanging off. I was like, so you've chosen to put that panel at the front of the prop for everyone to see. Like, couldn't you have used that at the back? Maybe they couldn't. I guess it's a door, but yeah, I just, the whole thing just looked like it was literally falling apart. And this is not even. This is the fairly new prop, This is not the old. I always lose track of the different names for the different TARDIS props, but you had Hartnell's one, which lasted for years, although it was like modified in different ways. Then it finally fell apart on poor Liz Sladen's head. So they built this new one, which this is basically the main shell of it is this new prop they built, and it looks terrible, absolutely falling to pieces.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it? Not at all.
It does not look good. Yeah. We won't go into the smell of it inside, which I can only imagine, because I always go back to this because I always think of Peter Davison always said like the props stank, and I just look at it thinking, yeah, doesn't look good. No wonder Tom and Lala couldn't wait to get out of it.
Yeah, and you can tell, can't you, that just not enough love has been dished out in looking after the TARDIS prop. Especially, it feels like when you get towards the end of a particular Doctor's era, you just see like the production team have got this. And I'm not throwing any shade at all. It's probably not. It is what it is. But it just feels like as you get towards the end of an era, the set designers, whoever handles the TARDIS prop, they're just a bit like, well, we're coming to the end now. It's like, even though even though it should be or should have been like, every single second that the prop's on screen, it has to look its best. I think it was more like, oh, crikey, I can't wait. We've got like another 3 weeks left of production and then I'm off. It's let's just get out of here sort of thing.
The actual corridors of the ship, I don't think they are, but they did remind me of the corridors from, the Robots of Death. They've got that same sort of look. I don't know if they are the same.
Oh, yeah.
I doubt it. They wouldn't have survived that long, would they? But
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
It could be. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, though. It does have that vibe. Definitely. Let's talk about some characters. I know we spoke about a few already, but what did you think to... so at the beginning, we have Captain Rig and a guy called Secker. Secker's of... I remember the first time I watched this thinking, this guy needs a slap. Because the first time I watched it, I didn't realise that he had been on the old, the drug that was knocking around. So I just assumed that he was just this cocky little smarmy, doesn't really care about anything. I thought, needs a slap, this guy. But in hindsight, Steve and Jen, who played Secker, actually played it really well because... You don't know what he's consumed at this point. This Raxoin, you don't know that he's had that. It's not until only later on when the Doctor discovers it and starts to tell us, the viewer, as he's telling K9, the symptoms of it and how dangerous it is and everything. So Secker at the beginning, unfortunately, he meets his doom, doesn't he? He goes into the intersection bit. And I think he gets taken out by a mandrill because he's got big claw marks down his neck. And
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, he's been taken out by the mandrills, hasn't he? So, he bites the dust. But I know he's only a small part and it's not amazing. But the fact that you wanted to dislike him immediately, to me, says he actually played that part quite well. Because you don't find out until later on why he was like that. So, and then Captain Rig was pretty cool throughout. Like I said earlier, David Dacre, he was pretty cool. So those two, quite like them.
Yeah, I agree with you about Secker, actually, because he is annoying, but you're right, he's supposed to be. He wasn't bad. But Captain Rig by David Dacre, he's a good actor, isn't he? I recognise him from different things. I know back in this sort of era, he was in quite a few programmes, wasn't he? I always think of him as being from Boone. Do you remember that ITV show, Boone, with Michael Elphick? He was in that. I can't remember the character. So, he's quite an established actor, I think, and... I do like the fact he's taking this seriously, Like, you can just tell for his performance, he's managing to do the sort of comedic, angry captain role, but he's not playing it too much for laughs. So I thought he was particularly good in it,
Yeah, he was Harry in Boone. I remember my mum watching Boone for years.
I used to love Boone, because I loved the theme tune. Oh, Silver, dun, dun, call him Lone Ranger. It's a great theme.
For those of you of a certain age that don't know what we're talking about, it was kind of like a sitcom, I suppose, wasn't it? Back in the sort of mid 80s to mid 90s, yeah.
I'll be very surprised if people if there's many listeners know the show Boone, but if you do let us know.
Oh yeah, I know it because my mum watched it quite a lot. So he was in all of it, I believe, as well, most of it.
Oh, he was, mate. Yeah, he was. But also, you know, when he has to do the crazy laughing thing when he's drugged. Now, very often in like programs, when people are asked to do fake laughter or coughing, it's normally really irritating because it's hard to fake in it. But he must have been channeling some funny memory because he's properly laughing. It didn't feel fake. It wasn't, you know, like when people do that. And he has to do it for a long time, but he's properly laughing at something. So either he went out and had a few jars at lunchtime and came back and filmed it, or he was just channeling something that made him laugh, because he does it pretty well, I have to say. Yeah, it feels like a genuine laughter. It feels like he's off his nut.
He's doing it. He is doing it very well.
Yeah,
that's what I mentioned earlier. He's got a good range in it. He's very stern and shouty at times when he's frustrated with what's going on. But then when he's drugged, he's complete opposite. You know, exactly as written, I suppose, which is cool. So, yeah, he was cool. What do you reckon to Lewis Fiander as Triss then? So, an Australian television actor playing a German scientist.
I thought he was supposed to be French. Is he German, is it?
Oh, I thought he was German. I thought he was German.
Mate, who knows? That accent could be from anywhere. Let's go with German. It could be anything. I have no idea what accent he was going for.
I thought, that could be me, dude, so don't take that as gospel. But yes, what do you reckon, though? Not a terrible performance per se, but just the way he was written, we droned on for ages, it felt like. So by the time he got to the end, and they got, him and Diamond at the end got apprehended in the CET and got carted off, I was like, thank God for that. It's going to shut him up. But not terrible, but just I think more the writing more than anything. Just had it go on for ages.
He's another one that in my memory, was thinking, oh, yeah, this is a terrible performance. This guy's awful. Actually, you're right, mate. His performance is not bad. He's really into the character. He seems like he's having a lot of fun playing this character. But, yeah, the way he's written is just this annoying. I can't say the words I've written on my pad because it's we don't want to get a expletive warning on the podcast. But yeah, he's just written as an annoying so-and-so. And I don't know whose idea it was to do the accent, whether he came up with that or the director did. It's very unusual and quite distracting, I have to say. But you take all that away, and like I said, the performance from him is pretty good. And he totally gets the role he's playing. So, again, better than I remember, really. Lewis Fiander,
I think, yeah. So you're not too bad.
Go on, not too bad. Have a go at the accent, mate. Go on.
I can't. No, I can't.
Oh, his brain. No, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't.
What did make me laugh about him though was just how brazen he was. Like towards the end of the story, he tries to frame the doctor for smuggling the drug, and then after it, when he gets apprehended at the end, he's like, I only did it for, for this reason. I didn't want to do it. Help me, doctor. We're both scientists, sort of thing. And Tom's reaction is really cool. Doesn't even look at him.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Go away. Cool. He says, go away or something, doesn't he? He's like, go away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wish I had my Blu-rays here, mate, because I would love to watch the extras for this story, because I just would love to think that he just did that accent on the day of recording. Like, they used to rehearse to death, didn't they, before they record? Mm-hmm. I'd just love it if he just decided at the spur of the moment, I think I'll do this in a really weird German stroke French accent, and just to see everyone's face like, what's he doing? But I don't know.
Can you imagine if he had not said anything and only did it when the cameras first started rolling?
That's what I mean, yeah. Action. The doctor's brain. What's he doing? It's too late. Go with it. Yeah. He's done it now.
We're going to have to carry this on the whole way now. You've started
you have to keep it up for the whole show.
Oh, God. But,
see Tom's face. Oh. No wonder there was eruptions on set, mate. No wonder.
Yeah, there is there is a couple of cool interviews on this story. So first of all, there's a commentary with Peter Craze, Bob Baker, and Lala Ward, and I think a few other production people. And that's moderated by Toby Haydock, and that's quite cool. They don't go into much, but there is a special feature called The Nightmare of Television Censor. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, vaguely, yeah.
And that dives into the troubled production of and the behind the scene. Has got some little clips with the crew who worked on it, and so that's got a little bit of tea. Nothing too crazy, but it does have a bit of a bit of tea there.
I must watch it when I get back to the UK. I must dig this one out.
Right. There was a little performance by a guy called Barry Andrews. He plays a guy called Stotts. He essentially was the guy that went missing. You know, Della thought he had disappeared and turns up inside the CET, wandering around Eden. He's the one that when when Romana's on her own and she turns on the CET and she can see the Forest of Eden and stuff, she sort of has a long, hard stare and the camera pans in slowly. And all you see is a guy's pair of eyes in between the leaves and stuff. And then he walks off. And it's a little bit weird. You think, who's that dude? And it turns out to be Stott. So, and he comes out and he's like the love interest, isn't he? And for Della and whatnot, even though she said earlier on, well, we're a bit more than friend. I'll forget it. You know, she doesn't want to go into it. She's a bit upset, but so he was okay. And then at the same time, we also had, before I get on to the Doctor and Romana quickly, what were the two officers, dude, that turn up? I thought to myself, hold on, what's going on here? This looks like something out of Delta and the Bannermen, obviously.
Yeah. It reminded me of that, or like Paradise Towers or something
Paradise
like that.
Towers, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, well, this is a bit, I don't want to say kinky, but at the same time, I do want to say it, because they look like something out of anyone that's seen any sort of comedies from the 80s, like Police Academy and stuff, whenever they had any kind of gay bar, like the Blue Oyster in Police Academy, it was always chock-a-block with people wearing this exact same outfit. Like the black leather cap. It was so cheesy and stereotyping and all that stuff. But Jeffrey Hinsliff and Peter Craze, then, who played these two guys, one of them I recognise from so many other things. Who was it?
I'm assuming, I don't know which one. One of them I recognise from Corrie, I think.
Or something, one of them has been in loads of things.
Yeah.
I think actually it was Jeffrey Hinsliff, because he was in, he was in The Professionals, and then he went on to do Holby City and stuff. So I recognise him from that. But those two were kind of okay. They were there to sort of, sort everything out and, get everything back to normal and arrest a few people, those accountable, and sort it all out. But they ended up being just a bit bumbly as well, a bit like the Mandrels. Didn't really accomplish much, as usual. It was down to everyone else. So not too bad, dude, but just the look was just hysterical to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, mate. Yeah, they added a bit of comedy element to it, which was kind of needed by episode 4. But yeah.
Oh, mate, now you've mentioned Paradise Towers. That's exactly the kind of vibe, isn't it, from those two? It's
the vibe I was getting, for sure.
Yeah. And Peter Craze, he was in Blake 7, dude.
I just noticed that, and I don't remember him from Blake 7, so I'll keep an eye out for him when I do my 500 rewatch of the series. I don't remember him. No, wonder who he was.
Don't remember someone from Blake 7.
He must have been a minor character, mate. I've seen that show so many times for me not to pick him out. He must have been a background character. I'll have to have a look.
Give it another watch, eh?
I will. As soon as I'm back in the UK, episode 1, on it goes.
Yes. And one more person before those two is Jeffrey Bateman as Diamond. Then, so he's the
guy in the silver suit, is he?
The uppity dude, the grumpy, cranky guy who's on a deadline and is not happy with Rig about the whole ship collision thing. Turns out he's in cahoots with Tris, doesn't he? He's those two are doing it, but he had quite a few scenes and was quite stern and whatever, but for some reason quite forgettable. Like I'd no recollection of his character at all before I rewatched this earlier. So I'd forgotten about his character completely, but I don't know if that's a bad thing on his performance or, again, the writing. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll probably forget about him again in a couple of months.
I'd actually forgotten about him until you just brought him up. But which is unfair actually because I had, but it's unfair actually because his performance is not bad. Like I like the bit at the end where he can't wait to get away, and the officer's like, "No, you're not going anywhere till we've written that report." Blah blah blah. But he's not bad in it. But yeah, just as a character, completely forgettable.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because he's in it. I wouldn't say a lot, but he's in it quite a lot.
He gets a few good shouty scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
Who are we talking about again?
Who is it? Oh, yeah, that guy. And what do you think, then, to David Brearley as the voice of K9? Because I know I've got an educated guess that you prefer John Leeson. He's your guy for K9, same as me and most other people. But I can't get on board with David Brearley. I'm sure he's a lovely guy and everything, and he's just doing what he's been paid to do, which is, do the voice of a robotic dog. That's it.
How hard can it be? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but for me, dude, I feel like he's trying a bit too hard to sound like John Leeson, which I know is the point. You want some consistency. If somebody has watched an episode with John Leeson's K9, ages ago, and then you've dipped out of the show, you've come back, you want it to be the same. I get that. I don't know. It just feels like he's not putting enough into the voice because he's he's concentrating too hard on trying to sound like John Leeson to put a decent performance in as K9. So it might sound a bit harsh, dude, but what do you think on David Brearley?
No, I kind of agree. He's too twee for my liking. As I said, I think if he'd always been the voice of K9, we'd probably just be used to it, but we're so used to John Leeson and the way he does it. And I think I'm right. Yeah, John Leeson comes back for the following season, doesn't he? So David Brearley only does this season 17. Yeah. So it's a little bit jarring in that sense, isn't it? Like, I must admit, every time I put on an episode, because I always forget that there was, a couple of people voice K9. And so whenever I hear David Brearley, I always think, it's someone else this season, isn't it? And it kind of grates on me, but I get used to it after a couple of episodes, but it's always that initial first episode where I forget that someone else is doing the voice, and then I hear him and I'm like, oh no, it's that K9, So yeah, I agree, mate. It doesn't work for me, but it's just because I love K9 and I like John Leeson doing the voice.
Yeah. No, I agree with that,
against
dude.
David Brearley,
Yeah, and he only done a handful of stories, didn't he? I think he did 3 or 4, and then Sharda, which obviously he wouldn't have been known for. But yeah, you're right though. And for me, it's like if John Leeson was playing this, was voicing this, when he's replying to the Doctor, it would be a lot more. What's the right word for John Leeson's voice? A lot more melodic, I think. So he'd be like, affirmative. With that sort of really sort of high pitched bit at the end, whereas David Brearley's like affirmative. It's a little nuanced thing, and I get that it's a small thing, but yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, Lala Ward as Romana, I think we've commented a little bit on her already, but for me, really just lackluster. And this is a weird story, dude, because I'm really unsure. I'm on the fence with a few performances as to whether that's just how they felt at the time. Now, there's probably a bit of, like we've said a few times now, this behind the scenes stuff, then this troubled production. It wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Whether that's affected the actors or some of the actors a little bit, I'm really not sure. Or if it's just the writing, I'm not sure if that's the cause for it. And, the actor's not over the moon about how this has been written for them, or if it's a bit of both. I'm not sure, but I think Lala Ward falls into that bucket with this one where there's something up, like she's not into it as much as some of her previous stories, but I'm not sure which cause, is for this one. But she's okay, but dude, just nothing like some of her previous stories. She doesn't smile hardly in it. Like, she's known for like a lovely little smile. She's very, very smiley in some stories, and she teases the Doctor a lot, and she's got a little twinkle there, but just none of that in this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not a standout story for Lala at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Lala.
Romana.
Okay, Tom. Oh, Tom. do you know what? Weird, because as alongside what we've both been speaking about, where we thought his performance was a lot worse than what it, on the rewatch, what it turned out to be. There are a few scenes where he's actually very, very good. He's just not consistent enough for this to be like a standout Tom story. But there are these little moments, these little flashes where he's just delivering his lines with such ease at times. He's bouncing off some of the other actors really well, and he's got such a straight face in some of it, but he's delivering a comical line. So like one of the other actors is shouting at him, like, how do you explain this? And without him missing a beat and not smiling, he's like, well, it's inexplicable. And it's just
I love that bit. Yeah.
It's a funny little reply, but he's delivering it perfectly. Like the timing is really cool in some of his performances. But then you think to yourself, okay, when you're talking about Doctor Who stories of Tom's down the pub, you hardly ever mention Nightmare of Eden, like hardly ever. But there are some cool little bits in it, dude.
Yeah, I was surprised by Tom in this because, he does. He gets some very nice dialogue moments and he delivers them well. And I was surprised how much he seemed into the story, especially now, given what we know about, the troubles behind the scenes and the production of it. His performance is pretty good in this, actually. Just a surprise. I mean, I know Tom always kind of delivers, but we've said it before. There are stories where he is flat and you just can tell that he's not into it. So, I thought he was good in this. I liked him. He gets some really nice bits of dialogue, some nice moments.
Agreed. Yes. He is good. He is good in it. There's just not one of those kind of memorable scenes that really stand out in your head when you're talking about Tom,
Yeah.
But it's just good. He's not amazing. He's not poor. He's just, I don't know. He's just good.
He brings the story up, right? I mean, that's the thing. I know it's a pretty flat story, but I think he does have a lot to do with why I enjoyed this more than I thought, his performance.
Right, gotcha. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. The score, there is most of the score is down to the performances of this one, rather than the story itself. And talking of that, have you got anything on your notes, bud, of anything you want to mention? What about the music? No. Old Dudley Simpson's back to do this. Not a bit like Jeffrey Bateman, who played Diamond. I forget this music pretty much instantly after I've watched it seems, because I cannot remember any of the music from this. I don't know about you, but yeah.
I only remember, it only stood out to me because a lot of it sounds like Dudley's music from Blake 7, because Dudley scores nearly every episode Blake 7. There are so many bits to this where I just think, God, if I close my eyes, I could have been watching Blake 7. I don't know, it's just something about the particular sort of beats that he's using in this particular show is like dun 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 dun. I thought, I can imagine like the Federation coming down the corridor to that. So it just seemed a little bit familiar to me. Not to say that in a bad way. I thought Dudley was still delivering, but you're right. Nothing like, that was a cool little musical cue there from Dudders. There was nothing that really stood out to me, particularly with music. But it was typical Dudders, I guess.
Typical Duddos.
Typical Dudders. And I haven't really got anything else on my notes, mate, apart from, it says on Wikipedia, the unpleasantness of this whole incident with the director Alan Bromley and Graham Williams led Williams to decide that he wished to leave the series, and Bromley never directed another story for the series and retired soon afterwards. So catastrophic after effects of this story. So
it must have been a pretty big blowout for people to be quitting and not doing it anymore afterwards.
Just imagine the mandrels down the pub, sat next to their masks. They're just there in full costume, but taking the masks off. They're all looking downbeat and looking at the floor, and there's an atmosphere, and better go back to work.
Yeah, and then what's his face walks in. Alan Bromley walks in.
Yeah, all looked at. Everyone looked down.
And they're like,
don't look at him.
Don't make eye contact. Just carry on chatting and drinking. He'll go away in a minute. And he comes over to the table. Oh, what about that then? That escalated quick, didn't it, hey? Bet you lads are glad you're in here. I've got to go back there in a minute.
And then Tom walks in the bar and the mandrels scatter to either side of the room. Oh, dear.
Yeah. Oh, crikey. I mean, what to be a fly on the wall for a lot of that
To be a
stuff.
fly on the wall, mate.
Yeah, bloody hell. And we also know, don't we, that Tom, in some instances throughout his career as the Doctor, had a bit of a temper, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
So
yes,
you
he did.
can imagine him going for it. Oh,
Well,
I'd
it
love
must
to have seen
have
that.
been fireworks, yeah.
Fireworks. It's one of those things where if you're working on the show and you go home in the evening, because I make it sound like a 9 to 5, but back in the day it was, wasn't it? The lights went out at a certain time and that was it. So
it.
at the end of the day, you went home to your wife or your husband and you're like, oh, you should have seen it today. And they're rolling their eyes like, oh, yeah, another person's foot came off the costume, did it? Excitement. You're like, no. Tom went off on one and the director walked out and we had this and she's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'll put the kettle on.
Dish the tea.
Yeah, they are to be a fly on the wall indeed.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So I've got nothing else on my notes, dude. You said you're done? You don't want to bring up anything else?
I'm all good. Yeah, I'm all done.
You're good. Right. Nightmare of Eden. Let's whack a score on this. Then I think it's me to go first, isn't it? Yeah.
You go first.
I'm going to give this a 5.5
Oh,
out of 10. I'll give it an extra half a point just because I think Tom has some great little scenes, but and then some of the other performances are not too bad. Otherwise, this would have sunk to a despicable 3 or 4 out of 10. So I think it's pretty poor, dude. I was bored. Actually, no, not poor is the wrong word. I was just bored through a large chunk of it. And the only time that I sort of perked up and thought it was cool was when there was a couple of cool scenes with Tom and he was cool and some other little performances and whatnot. So, yeah, not great at all, but certainly I won't reach for it if I'm in the mood for a Tom Baker story. But if there's literally nothing else on and everything in my possessions has been destroyed and the only thing left is a copy of Nightmare of Eden, then I'll watch it.
okay. Wow. Let's put that on the back of the Blu-ray set as the quote. No, I'm a little bit stuck on this one, mate, because I gave it a 7, but I'm not going to give it a 7 because I know that if I was to watch this again, the only reason I gave it 7, I think, is because it wasn't as bad as I thought. But I know if I was to watch this again, I think it's more of a 6.5. It's not great, but it's not as bad as its reputation. So 6.5 I'll go with.
That's your final score,
That's
is it?
final.
Right.
Yeah, that's
okay.
final.
Cool. Okie dokie then. So, what did I give it? Forgotten already. 5.5. 5.5 from me. A 6.5 from him. What did our listeners think over on the X? Or the X? Is it the X?
I still call it Twitter.
The Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter.
Okay, so sorry. Over on the Twitter, we have Doctor Who Home says, this is just short and sweet. This one's rubbish. Smiley
right.
face. That's your lot.
Okay.
That's your lot.
There you go. You had more characters you could use, but you didn't. On Twitter, I mean.
You wasted it.
Yeah.
You wasted it. Tom Turlow, though, had a bit more to say. He said, obviously, things went slightly off-piste this particular year, and Nightmare of Eden was a fine example of what was happening. There are some really good ideas in the story, but the execution is very panto. Doing a story about drugs is brave, but probably ill-advised. Tom and Lala are always good value, even if our lead actor is a bit off the leash. There are a lot of criticisms of this series, but things are going to become very dull and serious from the next year onwards, so let's enjoy a bit of fun while we can. 7 out of 10. P.S. I admit I'm being incredibly generous with that 7, but mostly due to my heartfelt love of Tom Baker.
That's fair enough. I get it.
Yes. Chippy T says, weirdly, I don't mind this. I like the idea of the living diorama of the Eden scenery. The monsters are naff but fun. The story arc of the drugs is an attempt at social commentary. You have to be in the mood, but it's not as bad as some people say. A 6 from me.
Cool.
Nick H says, great, some great ideas and quite daring with the drug plotline. Let down, of course, by the FX. Tom is OTT and was badly behaved behind the scenes too. I still like it. 7 out of 10.
Naughty Tom.
Matt Price says 9 out of 10 for me. It's fun, it's different, very adult sci-fi themes, and it's well written. The updated Blu-ray effects for the S17 Series 17 set are stunning. It's if not for City of Death and Sharda, this would be my fave of Series 17.
Ooh, okay.
Nice one, Matt. Mestor the Magnificent says, once considered a nadir of the show, time has been kinder as we look beyond production values to the best script Bob Baker wrote for the programme. Making it may well have been a nightmare, but it will never fail to bring me joy. 9 out of 10.
It is a fairly decent script, I will say.
Dude.
There's some nice dialogue.
2 9s on the bounce.
2 9s, yeah.
Nice. Ivana says, it's a solid 8 at least. Thanks to the outfit, Lala looks as if she has no hands in several scenes, but overall, it's quite enjoyable. Yes, I'd not considered that, but that's true. Yes. Dave Jarvu says, I watched it again a few years back and was left rather impressed with the story. It seems to have 2 levels. The surface appeal to younger viewers masks a darker script, and many don't see past that. 7 out of 10.
Cool, okay.
And to finish on a bummer,
oh no.
Kaiju no Kami says, the second best story from Tom's worst season.
Oh.
Take from that what you will. I've no idea if that's good or bad. Right, thank you very much, all of you lot over on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Over on Facebook, Mark Hugel says, a guilty pleasure. Always like this one. Great cliffhanger to episode 3 where the Doctor vanishes as the ship starts to separate. Cuddly mandrels and a top-notch Target book cover. 8 out of 10. Do you know what, Mark? You're absolutely right with that. The Target cover is very cool.
Sweet.
Because they emphasise the mandrel's eyes and the bits in its mouthy bit. This bright, sort of luminous green. Very cool.
I need to track that book down.
Yeah, it's very cool. James Burns says, I like this one. Some fine lines contained within. Andrew Stewart and my Tom Baker fatigue continues. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I find this dull. Nothing happens. The mandrels are good, in my opinion. However, Tom dials the weirdness up to 2,000. Doesn't help with Douglas Adams getting his grubby fingers on it. Oh, Andrew.
Oh, Andrew.
Romana is good, and the actual story is all right. Overall, I'd give it a 4.5. P.S. If you look on the DVD cover closely and look in the mandrel's mouth, you can see the actor's eyes.
Really? Oh, okay. I'll have a look.
Yes. Thank you very much, Andrew. Darren Sykes says, a very middling outing for the Fourth Doctor in this story. When broadcast, the young me thought the mandrels were great. Now with adult eyes, they look a bit silly. Baker's performance throughout the story is verging on going a little OTT. Lewis Fiander as Professor Trist manages it. Yet despite all this, we have an underlying story about drug trafficking. Quite a contrast and a brave decision for a 70s family TV show. A 6 out of 10.
6, okay.
Charlie Turner, a story so dull that even The Hand of Fear is better than this.
Right.
It also doesn't help that on the DVD cover you can see the actors' faces in the Mandrake's costumes. How have we not noticed this, dude, before?
I've never noticed that.
And here I thought that the Daleks in Destiny were cheap and tatty enough. A 2 out of 10.
Charlie.
For Tom and Lala, only as far as my memory goes. Oh, Charlie.
Savage this week from Charlie Turner.
Yep, the lowest score so far. And lastly, Douglas Stanford Grandy says, sorry, not much I can say about this one. Along with The Creature from the Pit, also from this season, it's not one of my favourites. I've always found it mostly boring. It's not one of the stories I revisit very frequently. 2, he died out of 10.
Okay.
He died.
Another 2.
Another 2. So, dude, I think the average score on this is probably a 7, actually, because we had a few 9s in there. We had another couple of 7s. And whatnot, but those bloody 2s, they brought it down. So yeah, probably a 7. Let's go over 7 as the average.
Let's go with that, yeah.
Why not? Hey, why not?
Yeah.
We've all had a coffee, so why not? Right, next week, dude. Bloody hell, another Tom Baker story. Here we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't done one for a while, so let's do a Tom Baker story. And is it Andrew that's getting really peeved for these?
Yes,
he's getting. Yeah, he's going to be thrilled. Sorry, Andrew, but we got to get these done. We've done all the others, so we next week it's The Face of Evil.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I can't remember. Is this the first? I get this confused. Is this the first Leela one, or is this the one with Sarah Jane?
By the way, I didn't mean what I just said. When I immediately reacted that way. Right, The Face of Evil. I don't know. I haven't, like Nightmare of Eden, I haven't seen it in many years, so I can't comment on what was going on there.
It's the Leela one. It's the Leela. I don't know what I'm confusing it with, but it's the Doctor and Leela. Cool.
Leela's definitely in it, yeah, but I don't know if it's her first one or not. But
okay.
So yeah, The Face of Evil. That's something to look forward to for next week. So
yeah, isn't it?
And on that chirpy note, I will think we will wrap there, dude, for episode 395.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 395 of the Big Blue Box podcast. Thank you very much for all of you that have chimed in on the old socials with your scores and your mini reviews. That means so much to us that you take the time to do that. So thank you very much. Next week, as Adam said, another Tom Baker story. It is The Face of Evil. So get that watched, as we'll be asking for your thoughts and reviews as always. In the meantime, please make sure that you are following or subscribing to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from, whether that's an app or from a network or on the line, online somewhere.
On the watching line. As we
put a new episode out every Friday, so you want to be around to catch those. And you can listen on the website, by the way, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. All the eps are there, plus all the reviews and articles from the writing guys. Check those out. Some really cool stuff there. We are on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There are links on the website, come and check those out. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week, and we have a very cool free Discord server, so hop in there and chat Doctor Who with lots of other Who fans. Also, don't forget to remember to check out my co-host channel over on
Pull
YouTube.
Yourself together.
Over on YouTube, it is The Geek's Handbag.
I have no idea what he's laughing at. Yes, go check out my YouTube channel. I'm on all the socials. I am The Geek's Handbag.
Indeedy.
Come on, get yourself together.
I'm good.
Aaaaaaaallons-y.
Right, until next week, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember...